Good morning, everybody. Looks like everyone is here. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to identify the causes and effects of economic prosperity during the 1950s. So I'd like to ask you a question. If today you could go out and buy any car that you wanted to, within reason, what kind of car would that be? There's a sticky on each one of your tables, so would you go ahead and please record your answer, and then team captains, would you please collect those, and we'll come up here and we'll tally the results. Team captains, thank you very much. Here's the results of our poll. I want you to notice that 25 of you chose cars that were manufactured outside of the United States, and only 8 of you chose cars that were manufactured in the United States. Now, this is very different than what would have been the case during the 1950s. During the 1950s, everyone in the room would have chosen a car manufactured in the United States. And the United States was also selling cars all throughout the world. We were pretty much a sole source provider to automobiles. Here I have a graphic organizer that we're going to move into now. And the graphic organizer is basically comparing prosperity in the 1950s and the 2010s. So I'm going to model a similarity as well as a difference to you. And then you as members within your teams are going to do the differences for the 2010s. So the first topic I would like to discuss is the GI Bill. The GI Bill was given to returning veterans from World War II, and what it did was it permitted them to return and finish their high school diplomas as well as go on to college. Another thing the GI Bill permitted the returning servicemen and women to do was it allowed them to borrow at very low interest rates loans so that they could purchase their first homes. So I'm going to go ahead and place the GI Bill here as something that was particular to the 1950s. Now, all of these GIs who went on to college, they went on to study engineering and science, and they basically were the first people in their families to go off to university. So this allowed the United States to have a tremendous advantage in having a very educated and skilled workforce, and this permitted a whole lot of prosperity during the 1950s. Now, the second thing that happened was these men and women who went off to university and studied, they then got married at a fairly early age, and they had a baby boom. So these men and women had children, and the average size of the families they had was 3.7 children, which is quite large compared to today's standards. 77 million Americans were born during this particular baby boom. When you consider that there's 300 million Americans living in the United States today, that's quite a large amount of people. So the GIs went on to have families, large families, and guess what they needed? These GIs needed homes, and that's where we really see the induction of suburbia into the U.S. landscape. So suburbia I put right up here, and this explosion into suburbia also had other effects. It resulted in a consumer economy. Now I'm going to put consumer economy right here because it's something that's very much shared between the 1950s and the 2010s. Now this consumer economy meant that all of these GIs who got married and had children and moved to suburbia, they suddenly needed to have a whole lot of things to fill their houses. And some of the things that they needed were cars. Cars were pretty much new on the landscape. And interstates were being built all throughout the United States to allow easy access from city to city. Another thing that was needed, each one of these houses needed a refrigerator. It also needed a television set, and televisions were quite new. So all of this led to a consumer economy. Great job, everyone, on working on your graphic organizer and presenting and defending your positions. Now we're going to move into our next phase of our team assignments, and this assignment is going to be recommending a policy change that will help stimulate the U.S. economy towards prosperity like we experienced during the 1950s. Now I'll be around to assist you and answer any questions you might have. Some of the resources we have available to us to do this assignment will be our textbooks, journal articles, as well as internet websites. So I'll be around to answer any questions, and let's move on towards this assignment.